Thank you
Wonderful.
so much. And after Laurie reads, I'm looking forward to getting into a conversation about your poems and Laurie's work and process. So, Laurie, please read, and then we will discuss all the both of the books and the writing process.
Okay. I'll start off with, this is at the very end of the first chapter, and the book Unsettled opens with me. I'm in Rochester, my hometown of Rochester, New York, and I've had a bad Match.com date. But that was a year or so before my travels. Around the time my settled life in Rochester began feeling all too familiar, like the soft sweatpants I'd fished from my dresser drawer each Saturday morning and wear to the local grocers despite their pilled fabric, the hole in one knee. It was around the time an urgent restlessness began to pester me, first during afternoon lulls in my daily work routine, then each evening as I sat on my sofa answering emails in front of the television. Something's missing. At night, I'd awaken from deep sleep an hour before dawn, sit with hot tea, ask myself what I wanted, what I was longing for. My answer at first felt vague. Wholeness, perhaps? As months passed, my uneasiness took on momentum, snowballed into a compelling force. I felt a compulsion to seek, a drive to cast about, an explorer's itch. And I began toying with the idea of leaving my job, my house, my friends and family, the place that felt like home. That was before I moved to South Korea to teach English at a university in Seoul and later in The Hague, before I backpacked in Ethiopia and Peru and Fuerteventura, then worked without a visa in Mexico for a while. 4 years in motion. Some might call it my midlife crisis, others my adventure. I say one thing led to another, then another, while I explored the world, grappled with the notion of home, searched for love, always looking, with one eye focused straight ahead, the other eye circling, perusing the possibilities. Then this is the second chapter. The title is Lost Ovaries. South Korea felt anything but familiar with its Seoul street vendors who sold stewed silkworm larvae, mung bean pancakes, and steamed octopus. Store signs were written in Hangul, the Korean alphabet, in stacked letters that looked to me like tiny boxes and ladders, square-shaped S's and upside-down T's. Tanks of live flounder, eel, and horseshoe crab lined sidewalks in front of restaurants and grocery stores. Green and yellow lovebirds sang from bamboo cages hung in tea house windows. The air in congested subway cars smelled of garlic, red chili paste, and fermented cabbage. I navigated the crowded sidewalks and metro lines, the city river paths and jogging trails. Oftentimes I felt disoriented and out of place, yet my skin tingled with a safari hat sense of adventure. 3 months after arriving in South Korea, I decided my vagina needed to be looked at by a professional for a change, and I made an appointment to part my knees for Dr. Chung. I'd never been pap smeared in the Eastern Hemisphere, yet approached the clinic reception desk with a swagger of confidence. How different could it be? Dr. Chung's clinic sat on the top floor of a squat 3-story building bookended by high-rises, a chipped incisor in a row of healthy teeth. The receptionist, a porcelain-skinned young woman with perfect facial symmetry, asked what I wanted done. I hesitated, first because the question threw me, but also because the receptionist looked so familiar. Hadn't I seen her somewhere before? Then realized I'd seen that same face on my male English composition student, Bumsuck. In South Korea, plastic surgery seemed stigma-free and commonplace. About half my students at Wangja University received cosmetic surgery promissory notes for high school graduation gifts. Congratulations, graduate. Anything is possible. Eyelid doubling, face fat thinning, jawbone reduction. During an English conversation activity one day, my classroom full of bright, hardworking college freshmen confessed past or planned plastic surgeries. What could you possibly want to change? I'd asked, dumbfounded. Both male and female students rattled off perceived shortcomings. 2 round faces, slightly bumped noses, slit eyes. There was an authentic sweetness about many of my students, an endearing naivete. Have a nice weekend, Laurie teacher, they'd say on Friday afternoons, holding their hands in front of their chests, fingers curved and thumbs touching, hand hearts. Thank you. Wonderful weekend to you too. I'd smile, then add, don't drink too much. My heart would softly break over their misunderstanding, that they needed to be something better when they were perfect as is. How could they not realize that the faces with which they were born, the way their features matured, blossomed, crinkled and dimpled, puckered or plumped, were uniquely expressive, golden, ideal? Then I'd catch my own reflection in the sunlit classroom window pane, my nose that looked roughly sculpted from Play-Doh, the skin on my neck appearing tired and creased, my Willie Nelson ears. Why am I feeling sorry for them? They're so damn pretty. These Korean beauties with perfectly pouty lips on heart-shaped faces, their delicate trimmed straight noses and pulled round Kewpie eyes, their Barbie doll chins and tiny moonshell ears. And those were the guys. Dr. Chung's receptionist wore a powder pink jumper and nameplate with Jihi in raised letters. Jihi blinked at me. You want gynecology or cosmetic? Apparently, Dr. Chung specialized in OB/GYN and cosmetic surgery. She worked both ends. It was a business plan with foresight. Deliver a steady stream of homely babies. 18 years later, chisel them adorable. Gynecology, I said. Jihi placed a sheet of paper on the desk counter. Using the fingertips of both hands like a seamstress guiding a silk hem under a sewing needle, she slid the paper in front of me. Please check boxes. Jihi tapped her fingernail, painted Hawaiian punch pink. She touched the glittery velvet bow on her black headband. She seemed half human, half Minnie Mouse. Please check, she repeated. I held the pen in my veiny hand. Jihi seemed born for the girly things that left me bewildered, like knowing which hairstyle flattered her face shape, and what color blouse brought out her eyes. I, on the other hand, begrudged carrying a purse, resented having to shave my knees. Compared with Jihi, my X chromosome was half-baked. I read the long menu of gynecological options, prices included. The list of procedures started out simple enough. Pap test, 40,000 Korean won, about $40. Prenatal screening, 50,000 won. Mammography, 70,000 won. They grew increasingly ominous. Ovarian cancer marker, for example. Viral load test, HIV. Some procedures raised questions. Perineal reconstruction, vaginal wet mount, recto-seal. Who would elect to have their recto sealed? I checked the box in front of pap test. Should I have also checked mammography, blood tests? Dr. Chung's nurse ushered me down a stucco corridor and into a room stuffed with dated office furniture. On a black smudged desktop stood a dusty rubberized model of a cervix and fallopian tubes. When it came to maintenance, South Korea stood spread-eagled between high technology and low expectation. In my college classroom, with the tap of a computer icon, a projector lit up, and a screen rolled down. Each morning, I entered the room to find desktops cluttered with crumpled chip bags and candy wrappers. On the floor lay empty plastic juice containers, tangled strands of black hair. I'd stand at the lectern, looking out at my students' flawlessly maintained faces, juxtaposed with the unkept condition of our room. How curious, I'd think. And I think it's been about 10 minutes and should probably stop there.
Thank you so much, both of you, for reading.